Welcome to the DYNAMO Show. This is episode 35, and I am your host, James Erdt, the chief architect of WOW for a brand called DYNAMO Entrepreneur. We support experts in living well and doing good, predominantly speakers, authors, internet marketers, coaches, all those individuals that are not only putting that oxygen mask on themselves, but they're also doing it for their community and the world at large. And we have a friend of mine here today, Mr. George Stavro. So good to have you on the show. We have a lot of similar passions in the health and wellness and fitness industry. But before we get into that, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your past and your story. I know what you're doing now, but care to share a little bit with me and the audience?
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of the road of getting here.
Yeah, so this actually started off as a hobby back in high school. It's like just take a look at some of the old Steve Reeves movies, like playing the part of Hercules, and it's like very inspiring. Like the background's Greek, so like can relate to that.
That's right.
And then it's like just get my hands on as much literature as possible. So the various muscle magazines, and it's like trying out different routines, see what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
And like getting some good results. And like I was in pretty decent shape in high school. And a friend of mine who was actually like the manager at one of the health clubs that I had a membership at, he says like, okay, well you're learning a lot in this field. Have you ever thought about becoming a personal trainer? I go, no, like, this is just fun. It's like, just helping out friends and family. He goes, well, look into the thing. It's like, you can help people and, make a good income off of it. So it's like, took my courses, like, through some of the various certifying bodies that are out there. So a lot of balance, say, between the theoretical side, because you want to see how the body responds. You want to know, like, the makeup of, just, your anatomy and things like that. And then you get into the practical side. It's like, okay, well, how do I work with the different people that are out there?
And do you have a specific group that you're focusing on? Is it women? Is it men? Is it obesity? Is it fitness models? What do you kind of focus on? What is your key target?
I'd say right now it's like it's more people in their 60s. So baby boomers and things like that.
Right on. Why that chosen market?
The thing is, they put
you don't hear that often.
No, well, they put a lot into the system, and it's like, I find it's like, okay, they've contributed a lot. They're at the point, so either they're retired or about to retire. And then, unfortunately, some parts of society say like, okay, well, we don't need you anymore. And they'll focus on the younger people that are up and comers. It's like, well, there's room for everybody. So just say it's like, well, what are you going to do? It's like, you're at that point where it's a transition. And maybe you're going from working full time to not being employed at all anymore. It's like, okay, I want to be retired, but what do I do with my time? And a lot of times people, when they stop working, they get lazy, for lack of a better word.
They do, yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, I want to keep active. And it's not just saying being physically active, it's just like there's different parts of the whole health and wellness side that I focus on with some of the people that I deal with. So it's not physical, we're looking at mental, emotional, spiritual.
The works.
Financial, and then say relationship with yourself and others. So you could be
That's
solid
important.
in 5 areas, but if you're in a bad relationship, it could do a number on you on the first 5.
No, it's an interesting target demographic because there's probably less competition, first off. You know, there's not so many people that are focusing on that. They're all focusing on the youngsters.
That's right.
You know, I actually ended up focusing on fitness model competitors, right?
Okay.
So I took it to that nth level of what the body could really do in the anatomy.
That's
and
right.
just as you get, and I did have clients that were in their 40s, 50s, you know, but as it got older, it was very difficult for the body to adapt to some of the training principles and stuff that I was teaching the youngsters, is because it's such a different science.
Exactly.
You know, the body slows down.
That's right.
It really, really does. Have
a
you
matter
ever
of
taken
recognizing
anyone to stage? Like, have you ever done anything like
I
that
have
before?
not, no.
No, it's
Can't
a pretty
say
cool
that I've got
experience.
experience
I invite
with
you to do that. You know,
Yeah.
it's, if you're interested,
Definitely.
You know, find some of the organizations. They have seniors competitions.
Yeah.
Right. So within the competition, they'll have like a 40 plus or a 50 plus.
Yeah.
But just to see like what your Stavro method would do with somebody like that,
Exactly.
to take them to that next level.
Love it. Yeah, it's a
That would be
fantastic
really, really
idea.
cool. So how did you get into, you know, the Stavro method first off? Like, let's
That's
talk a
right.
little bit about that
Yeah.
while we're on it.
Okay, so this is a collaboration with various experts in the health and wellness industry. So a good friend of mine, John Paul Catanzaro.
Okay.
He's probably like, you know, one of the top personal trainers in Ontario, if not Canada.
Yeah, cool.
So he contributed the exercise program
he
portion
knows
of
his
it.
stuff.
Exactly, he does
Yeah.
very well with things there. You know, and he has helped people like, you know, get in stage ready shape, but he's dealt with so many different segments of the population. So I said, JP's my guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, he's given a general template as far as what to follow.
Yeah.
And what we've done with the Stavro method that kind of separates it, say, from some of the other programs that are out there, is there's a beginner, intermediate, and advanced phase.
Yeah.
Based on the questions that you answer.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, I'm not going to name any names that are out there, but someone's like, okay, well, you have to do this program and set them up like a very heavy weight. Like, I'm not going to put somebody for a 6-rep max in the squat when they're still new to the thing.
Yeah,
You're setting themselves up for an
dangerous.
injury. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, you know, you're a beginner. It's not so much, say, the person's chronological age, it's their training age.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so you could have like,
How do you figure out their training age?
it's not written in stone, but
Yeah.
like, you know, just more guidelines. So I say
Yeah.
if they're training less than a year solidly and like, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, let's classify them as beginner.
Yes, I would agree.
If they're about, say, 1 to 3 years of pretty regular training, about 3 to 4 times a week, we'll call them intermediate.
Yeah.
And then about, say, 3 years plus, about like 4 or 5 days a week, or maybe even a bit more, we'll call them advanced.
See, I went in reverse. I was advanced, now I'm a beginner again.
I see. Nothing wrong with learning
After
things
spinal
again.
surgery, you got to start all over.
Exactly.
You know,
But things
so-
happen and you deal with it.
It
you know?
does. But once you know, it's interesting because the body and the muscles have memory.
Oh, that's the whole
Right?
thing.
So it's wild how quickly it comes back once you've actually been there and
yeah.
you've taken it there.
Well, and one of my mentors out there, Paul Check, he says, you know, your first,
Great mentor to have.
yeah,
Yeah.
phenomenal wealth of
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is like, you know, the first 350 reps in any exercise, consider them sacred. So it's like, take your time, learn how to do the movements properly. It's not just like, you'll see how much
Technique.
weight you can lift and trying to impress whoever's in the gym. It's like, do it for you. And
Yeah.
when you learn it properly, it's hard to unlearn it.
Yeah.
And you're less likely to be at risk for injury, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be in the sport that much longer.
And enjoy the journey. Like, focus
Exactly.
on the now and really focus on the muscles that you're actually working.
Definitely.
Right? So many people are just thinking about the future and what's going on,
Yeah.
you know, way, way, way out, and they get discouraged.
Oh, exactly.
Because it takes time to get out of shape. It takes time to get back into shape.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's
and
like,
when we
yo-
do it too fast, we'll you know, not only attain it, but we won't maintain it.
That's the whole
right?
thing.
So with your method in particular, is it what would you say? Is it like a 1 month thing, a 3 month thing, a 6 month thing?
Well, there's 3 different levels in it, and each level is 12 weeks.
12 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, so basically it's like, you'll
So
each
12,
level,
12, and 12.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, each level is going to have different phases that last about a month.
Yeah.
Because like, if you're on a program for too long, you hit a plateau, you're not going to get any results from it as
Yeah.
good as any program is, whether it's my method or anybody else's out there.
That's right.
If you're on for too short a time frame, the body doesn't know what to do. So
right.
it's like, you know, if you mix it up too much, like, okay, what do you want from me? Am I running a marathon one day and then am I training for sprints the next?
Yeah.
You want that continuity. So
Yeah.
you figure just say a 4-week block, here's your exercises for the day, here's your nutrition, here's your recommended supplements. And even with the supplements, you know, we have one of the top specialists out there who formulates his own line, Dr. Mauro Di Pasquale.
Great.
So he's the
Great.
specialist that specialists talk to
Yes,
when they've got
that's right.
questions.
That's right. Yeah.
You know?
So you got some really great people on board.
Yeah.
That's good.
and
Surrounding
then,
yourself with people that know, right? So you're kind of like the ringleader, and then you got all this proper
Yeah.
information coming in from good, credible sources.
and that's the whole idea.
I acknowledge that. That's great.
yeah,
So let's
appreciate
talk about 60 Mag. We got about 2 minutes left, so let's talk
Okay.
about 60 Mag. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have a total 22 contributors on board, and this is a project that just launched. So
Maybe
it's like,
share
you know,
with our audience, what is 60 Mag?
Okay,
Your 1 minute infomercial.
1 minute infomercial. So it's a holistic approach to health and wellness, and it covers those 6 areas that we spoke about earlier. So physical health, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and then relationships with yourselves and others. And what the contributors have been so kind enough to do is they each contributed a small chapter in it, and we've also done audios, videos, and webinars that expanded on the chapters, and there's tons of bonuses involved. So the whole idea is like, okay, you get a taste of it within the digital book that's available on Amazon. So a bit of a plug that way.
Yeah.
And then
plug away, man.
Yeah, and then you learn a lot through the webinars, and then like you're also offering like just discounts on the various products and services, and you say, you know what, I read your contribution. I want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing, and can we chat?
Is there a website?
60mag.com.
So
SIXTYMAG.com.
Yeah. And how do they find you directly?
Find me directly, thestavroumethod.com.
Stavro method. And are you doing any international training with this? Is it somebody that can do it anywhere in the world?
Anywhere, yeah. So it's all
internet
digital.
Based, and away you go.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Digital. I love it, man. I love it.
Because we were thinking about doing just a print version and just the logistics. Let's just make it digital wherever you are. There it is.
Exponential reach.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, my friend, for coming on the show. It's an honor to have you here. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing.
It's a pleasure.
I'm a big fan of your work. So
thank you.
We'll talk again. Yeah. I am James Erdt. This is the Dynamo Show. We're here with George Stavro, and we will be back right after this short commercial break. And welcome back to the Dynamo Show. This is episode 35. I am your host, James Erdt, the chief architect of WOW for Dynamo Entrepreneur. And we have a WOW expert here today. I'm excited to introduce Stephanie de Grazia.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today.
It is a pleasure to have you. I am so intrigued by your work because you're getting popular really fast. And it's obviously a little bit of a mixing of charisma, a little bit of mixing of like your skills and what you've done in the health and wellness industry, but also now food, Yes. So we're going to talk all about that. But before we talk about that, how did you get here? Care to share the journey?
So now I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. I own my own business. I work for a physiotherapy and wellness clinic. I do a lot of motivational and inspirational talks, a lot of expos, seminars, whether it be at schools, workplace environments, that type of thing, and a lot of social media work. So prior to that, I first obtained my post-secondary education at York University. I got an honors bachelor in psychology, which was absolutely phenomenal, and it does play a huge role and is extremely useful tool, especially for my clients now, because a lot of nutrition related, emotional eating, that type of thing, especially dealing with stress and illness and that type of thing, it definitely gives me a lot of tools to help them to be successful. But after I graduated, I had a placement in a clinical psychology setting, and I just felt like it wasn't for me. So while I was in university, I also had a major lifestyle change. I lost 40 pounds. I became really interested in nutrition and in fitness and in wellness, also experiencing a lot of health issues myself. It really drove me towards the nutrition and the wellness industry. So,
care to share about those health issues? This so we can connect. So a lot of the audience out there is going to look at you and say, hey, that's me.
Yeah, so a lot of, like the emotional part of, university, dealing with stress, a lot of like the binge eating type of thing, the pressures of, being a young girl and all the social pressures of looking a certain way. I had a lot of digestive disorders, acne, anxiety, depression, that type of thing. So there's a lot of different things that I underwent and had to kind of overcome. So that led me to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, which is where I became a nutritionist. And
great school.
From the moment I stepped into that classroom, I knew it wasn't just going to be my career. This is exactly what I wanted to do, and it was my life's path. Right place, absolutely. Right on,
right on. So, I mean, now, like, how does that relate to what you're doing now?
So basically, I'm a holistic nutritionist. So in my own business, I do nutritional counseling. So I do very detailed assessments for my clients and help them with anything from, weight loss, cholesterol, diabetes, IBS, PCOS, a lot of different health issues.
Training too, like physical resistance, or more just on the nutritional side?
I do recommend a lot of supplements, and I also deal with lifestyle things. So teaching them or referring them to other practitioners in the industry that can really help them to achieve their goals, whatever
Cool.
it may be. So I know a lot of, naturopaths, personal trainers, and other people that can also help them with their journey.
Is it focused mostly in Toronto, or is it more?
I
Can you reach the world with your stuff?
I can reach the world. I do consults via Skype. I do them online, on phone.
What a great tool.
I've had clients been referred to me as far as Stratford, or people in Milton who have come down to see me. A lot of people in the Vaughan community, Mississauga, Toronto. So a little bit everywhere. I find that social media definitely played a huge role in that.
Let's talk about that, because I would actually say you're a social media expert with what you've done with Instagram and all that. It's such a new, powerful tool.
Absolutely.
Some tips maybe on how to use Instagram effectively to reach your audience.
So absolutely, it's number one, consistently posting.
Yes,
so
agreed.
valuable content. Just posting a picture, it's not going to do anything. You have to have a really important message, something very valuable. So I always say, you can be an encyclopedia of knowledge, and you have so much potential, but if you're not sharing it, your knowledge is pretty useless. So my thing is, I have studied so much. I'm a researcher, a little bit of a nerd. All I spend my time doing is, researching, reading. If I don't have an answer to something, I need to understand it. I need to know it. So I'm very research driven. So I have a lot of information and knowledge, especially in terms of wellness and nutrition and holistic health. So I really try and inspire people through that, especially in terms of creating a healthy movement towards healthier eating, making a social impact. So consistently posting and definitely having information that is valuable. Another way to get a great reach is hashtags. So there's all the silly hashtags, selfie, pick of the day, but really driving.
Follow.
So really driving those hashtags that are really related to what you're doing.
They're time sensitive too, I heard.
Time sensitive, there's certain times of day that are, you get a bigger reach of readers or people who are on the social media platform, but just things that really resonate with the message. So if it's something motivational, inspirational,
do you use YouTube
vegan.
as well, or are you?
YouTube, I'm kind of diving into that now. I do primarily Instagram, some Facebook type of things, but.
And you're making your own recipes, correct?
I do. I love to cook. I'm actually known a lot for my recipes and promoting healthy eating.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, everything. I've been cooking since, honestly,
Must be the Italian in you.
Yeah, so I learned how to cook actually when I was about 4 years old.
Oh, great.
I learned from my grandmother and my mom. So, I was 4 years old in the kitchen, learning how to make homemade everything. So,
growing up with an Italian family, I'm
Yes.
Central European as well, I'm German, right? So a lot of the cooking styles, they're not as healthy.
Exactly.
Like when you were learning, were you learning
sure.
healthy methods of cooking, or was it more traditional?
No, so growing up in a traditional, Italian home, it's very carb heavy, a meal's not complete without bread, pasta, pizza, and then breaded veal, or, so got to get in those carbs every time. So, it was definitely something that was not, it's a little bit more rich, it's more of an indulgence. So actually a few years ago, I developed a gluten and a dairy allergy. So probably the worst Italian. And 2 years ago, I decided to go vegan. So that definitely limited me from.
And you're vegan currently?
Yes, for the last 2 years.
Good for you.
So it definitely limited me from eating a lot of the foods that I was accustomed to eating growing up. So because I loved being in the kitchen and I loved to cook, I started to get creative, and I started to draw inspiration from anywhere and everywhere. I would look at blog posts, different recipes, and put my own spin on it, or think, how can I make a healthier version of that? So that's what I do for a lot of my clients. Whatever food it is that that's not as healthy that they really enjoy, I try and give them a healthy alternative, because I find that most people, in terms of eating and being unhealthy, it's difficult for them to stay on track when you limit them so much. Like, you can't eat this, you can't eat this, you can't eat this. Well, what can I eat? Or you have to eat just this boring, steamed veggies and chicken. That's not how food should be something you love. You should enjoy it. So if you love pizza, I try and create healthy pizza recipes, or pasta, try and give you a healthier option. So sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. Usually they do work, and they end up pretty delicious.
If they apply it.
So usually I'll make it for myself, for family and friends. If the recipe is great, I post it and share it with the world. So trying to inspire people to get in the kitchen, for sure.
Now, the industry you're in is very competitive, and as a young entrepreneur, how would you say you differentiate yourself from some of your competition?
So absolutely, I think you have to be really ready to work very hard. You need to put in a lot of time and effort, and you need to be very passionate about it. Without passion, there's nothing to drive you. So I think my sense of passion and ambition, and just really being passionate about this so much that I live it, I breathe it, it's something that it's a huge part of my life. So I really care a lot about my clients. They're really about inspiring people. I feel like a lot of people need that extra push, and especially with my psychology background, I find that the support is a major part of it. So just really giving them the entire package. It's very easy to go online and get a meal plan. It's extremely generic. It's not going to hold true to you, and you're probably not going to get the results that you need, and it's going to frustrate you. So everything I do is extremely detailed. I do very detailed assessments. So for example, if two people have diabetes, there's so many other factors that can come into play and make something successful for them or make something not successful. So looking at things like, genetics, stress levels, their job, their dietary habits, any medications they're on. So everything I do is completely customized for the individual, and giving them a lot of really fun and healthy recipes just to inspire them to continue going and giving them that extra support for sure.
I love it. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs that watch this show. Let's say the young entrepreneurs that maybe are going through university, they've gone through some of the challenges that you've gone through. Maybe a minute worth of inspiration for them. These young girls out there.
For sure, never expect anything to just come to you. Things are definitely not handed to you, and although it's great to have that education, it doesn't really entitle you to a lot of it doesn't open doors for you. So you really have to push, work hard, and really get out there. You really need to be prepared to put in a lot of work, a lot of time and a lot of effort, but if it's something that you love, you won't feel like you're working. So, step out of your comfort zone. The only way that we grow is through being in discomfort. So for example, especially in university, I hated public speaking. I was always absolutely terrified. I hated being in front of crowds of people, and now I present at places like the CanFit World Fitness Expo, Whole Life Expo. I put myself on social media. So you might be scared, and it might be something that you really fear doing, but the reward is absolutely incredible.
I love it. And now you're public speaking on the Dynamo Show.
That's
with
right.
Our 5 million reach.
5 million.
Stephanie the Grazia, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I will be a follower of your recipes, so I'm looking forward to going home and trying
healthy,
some
delicious
out.
stuff. Maybe something vegan, I don't know.
I'm James Erdt. This is the Dynamo Show. I'm not vegan yet, but thinking about it. See you after this short commercial break. Welcome back to the Dynamo Show. This is episode 35. We've had 2 great guests. We're going to continue things with a really dear friend of mine, Mr. Joel Kazmi. We're doing a little bit of rock, paper, scissors here, 1,
there you go.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no.
1, 2, 3.
My
turn. I get to be the interviewer.
Perfect. Let's
So
do
as
it.
you can see, we're buddies. I'm honored to have Joel on the show. He's actually my music producer. I've just recently got into music as a 45-year young man, and I'm really excited about it. So he's really taking good care of me. We're working on a song together called Believe, and we're going to raise $1 million for at-risk youth across the GTA. And I'm very excited to work with you. So before we get into that, I'd love to learn a little bit more about Joel and kind of the path as a youngster, any challenges you maybe overcame, mountains you climbed, oceans you swam.
Well, I actually came from a pretty good background. I'm one of the fortunate ones.
Okay.
I grew up around friends that had less fortunate backgrounds, which, obviously was an inspiration to me to see them actually succeed later in life.
Yeah.
So that was definitely where I drew that energy from.
That's cool.
Because like I said, for me, I was a lucky one.
Yeah. Right on.
So that was definitely, a good motivational part of my life.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school in North York, actually.
Okay.
So I'm originally from Europe. I was born in Frankfurt, Germany.
Yeah, that's
But,
right. Yeah.
there
That's
you
where
go.
my
That's the
family's
German
from too.
connection,
Frankfurt,
right?
Germany. That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, we moved out here when I was fairly young, and I
Yeah.
spent most of my life in Ontario. And like I said, high school in French high school, actually. Just here in North York, up at Bayview and York Mills area. So.
Now, have you always been a musical genius?
Well, I can't say that I've been a musical genius my whole life, but I've definitely been interested in music almost my whole life.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I got married a few years ago, and we did like a little a little sample of different photos of us when we were younger as a little thing for our friends and family to watch.
Oh, cool.
During the wedding.
Yeah.
And while we were going through looking for photos, I found all these photos of me being like 2, 3 years old with like holding guitars and playing little drum kits and all this kind of stuff. And
It's in your blood.
Yeah, my parents were telling me I was always that kid that would point out, instead of pointing at toys, I'd point at instruments and stuff in the stores.
Was your family into music?
No, oddly enough, that's what's really bizarre is both my parents are bankers, so I couldn't be furthest away from music.
The opposite. Yeah.
But I know that my dad was, where I think I got some of it from is my dad loved poetry. He used to write quite a fair amount of poetry just to get his creative juices going. And in terms of music, I can recall, being young, and my dad had a little music room in the house, and he'd just sit there and listen to records over the weekend, and I'd spend some time in the room with him listening to music. So
lyric writing is kind of like poetry,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like, did you have any chance to write lyrics too, or were you more?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
I mean, one of my favorite classes when I was in high school was creative writing.
Okay.
And it dealt with poetry and just writing short stories and things like that. So I loved that whole component too.
I love it. I mean, I'm just learning to write lyrics myself for music, and then we're putting together a song. And in the words of a music producer, I'm going to let him explain the project. Why don't you tell him a little bit about what we're doing?
Yeah, so basically,
I think it's so exciting.
So what we're basically doing is we're writing this song, starting from scratch, and the theme obviously being the Reviver Ranch. That we've
Reviver Ranch for at-risk youth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously, it starts in a dark place, but we're hoping that it's going to end up in a really positive place. So what we're trying to do, at least what I'm trying to do from my perspective as a writer, is I'm trying to create all these dynamics within the song, where you've got some darker areas that kind of lift up, and you create all these movements of drops and peaks and valleys, essentially.
That's right.
To help, have people
Minors and
connect and
majors.
illustrate, these perils and these milestones in life that people can be, or challenges that people can deal with. So basically it starts with, basically started with you giving me the concept and sitting at a piano and basically just trying to figure out something that worked in terms of chords and little melodies, and now as we're going, we're starting to stack layers, and we got a beat in, and we've got different instrumentation that's coming to
And that's so cool because you're using so many different people, right? I mean, the really cool concept. It's kind of like, Eminem's song, what is that? "Love the Way You Lie" with Rihanna. That's kind of where the inspiration came from in regards to like the style of the music. However, then the "We Are the World" type environment where we're bringing in some individuals.
Exactly.
Right.
So
some pretty key individuals.
Well, that's the plan. Yeah. So we've already gotten quite a few really interesting people that want to be on board with this project.
Celebrities.
So yes, we've got a couple, which I'm not ready to share just yet, but everyone will know about it.
When we have their voice on the song, you'll know.
Exactly. So
awesome.
Definitely some voices that are very distinct that people will recognize. Even on the technical side of things, I've gotten quite a few people involved that are willing to help out with the production of the song. The writers, some of the engineers that are coming in. We've even potentially got a video crew that's willing to do a video for this. So,
I love it.
So
yeah, we got Ross Budden. He's a country musician. He's actually my coach. He's helping me with my voice and understanding, the mechanics and the anatomy of your vocal cords and your lungs and proper breathing exercises.
For sure, which is huge.
We're toying around with some covers and having a lot of fun. We got rock, we got country, hip hop, so a little bit of everything. So
that's great.
It's wild, as a 45-year young person, getting into music now, I simply love it, and I hope to inspire so many other, people that maybe are into music, that sing in the shower, sing in the car, wherever it may be, that have that in them to say, hey, it's never too late to be great.
For sure, and it's funny you should mention that, because I've been doing a lot of that lately, where I've had clients come in that know how, they have a melody in their head, or they have lyrics in their head, but they don't know how to orchestrate it. They don't know how to put music underneath it.
Yes.
And it's, the average Joe.
It's scary for a newcomer.
Totally.
Because it's so overwhelming. How do you create a song?
For sure.
Right.
And that's where, I've been lucky enough to be able to come in on some of these things where it's, everybody's got the potential to be creative in that respect. It's just some people are afraid to either do it or they will do it, but they don't know how to go about doing it. So I've been helping facilitate that in a very similar way.
What would be the first step for somebody that's listening to get them started on something like this?
Well, the first step that I've noticed that a lot of these people have approached me with is that they have a poem maybe that they've written, right? Some lyrics. Maybe they have a melody, something that's in their head, something that they can sing to themselves. And I guess the first step would be to maybe, if they were to approach an individual like myself, would be to...
How do they find you on that note?
They can find me on Facebook. I've got, well, my company's 11 Hertz Music.
Yep.
I've got a website, 11hertzmusic.com.
Yep.
And I've got a Facebook page. So either one of those two places is...
Right on. How do you spell 11 Hertz?
11 is actually, yes, so it's E-L-E-V-E-N, so it's spelt out. Hertz is in pain, H-U-R-T-S, music, M-U-S-I-C.
Yeah, and that's a play on words.
It's a play on words. It's not that I'm going to make your life a living hell. It's not going to be a painful thing. What it is, it's basically, it's an audio frequency. It's a very low frequency, and the reason that it's 11 hertz is because it's a frequency that can actually damage your internal organs. It's so low. So it's something that I kind of played around with.
That's really positive.
It is very positive. But it was a bit of a joke when I was in college learning engineering, and I was like, I'm just going to make a Hotmail account back in the day that had to deal with, you know, this 11 hertz thing, and it just turned into my company name. So
I love it. I mean, if you are thinking about getting into music, it's definitely somebody that you want to look up. You know, Joel Kazmi here. We're actually going to take a short commercial break. When we get back from that, I want to talk a little bit more about the business of music.
Sure.
Okay, let's get right into the science of the business of music, you know, the highs and the lows and some of the things that can happen. I know a lot of musicians, they get into the industry, you know, and they just come in guns a-blazing, and they can get really hurt. Like if they make the wrong moves, or they connect with the wrong people, and you know, they're just blind to it, or they sign on a dotted line on a contract for something that maybe locks them in for 5 or 10 years, you know, and then their money's gone.
Absolutely.
Right? So I want to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to pick your brain after the short commercial break.
Sounds good.
So my name is James Erdt. We are on the DYNAMO Show, and we will see you right after this short commercial break. Welcome back to the DYNAMO Show. I am your host, James Erdt, the Chief Architect of WOW for DYNAMO Entrepreneur. And we are going to continue things with Mr. Joel Kazmi. Let's talk music business, okay?
Yes.
I've heard nightmares, and I've heard some really great success stories. Care to share?
Well, yeah, I mean, the business has changed a lot.
Yeah.
I think there are good and bad things. What obviously has been happening a lot from the artist's perspective is that there have been a lot more situations in which they can get involved in crazy contracts. And it's not to say that those didn't exist before, but they've gotten even more overwhelming now, because obviously there's only certain streams of income that can be generated by these companies.
Different nowadays, isn't it?
It's very different.
Yeah.
So
Why is it different predominantly? Is that because like the Napsters came around?
Yeah, I mean, not to be one of the guys that jumps on that train, but yeah, downloading's absolutely affected things in terms of budgets. So
I guess it gets the music out there further, but if they can get it for free and steal it.
Well, yeah, but to be honest with you, I mean, that's one of the things where it's kind of been embraced in a sense, I guess, unofficially, is that yes, I mean, it's free promotion.
Yes.
In a way, because obviously people are now able to access stuff without necessarily having to fork money out for it. But what it's done is, on the other end of things, it's brought up prices of things like tickets to concerts and merchandise and all of that. So it's kind of flipped the balances in another way. So I think...
Is it better to be an experienced band that has a name, or a new band in this day and age?
Well, I think in terms of volume of sale, you're still, obviously, if you've got, you know, the years of dedicated fans behind you, that's always going to be a great thing.
Yeah, that's a benefit no matter what.
But where I think the difference is with new artists versus artists that would have, you know, been starting out 20 years ago is accessibility to the internet. You have free promotion now. You don't have to necessarily rely on a label or a distribution network created by an entity that you're basically paying money to. You can do a lot of that on your own.
You can.
Is it as effective as what a label might do? Maybe, maybe not. But it's absolutely a viable means to get your name out
works.
there.
I mean, I just came across a commercial on YouTube directly from a band that a band posted. I absolutely loved the track. I went to their Vivo page, and for the past 3 days, I've been listening to nothing but this band, I will support them.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is there's a lot more avenues now. One of the biggest things that I would strongly suggest any artist get into if they're able to is games. games and apps.
Games.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
for an artist.
Absolutely. Getting into video games and applications.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like
Yeah.
being like the music behind the
Oh
video
yeah,
game.
totally.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's huge.
Big market, eh?
It's a huge market.
Massive
I mean,
market.
it's gotten to the point where the budgets for video games are almost as high as some of the blockbuster features. Right?
Is that good for like a rock band too, or is it better
think-
for like more techno artists?
I think it can be either or. I mean, if
Yeah.
you listen to certain games, depending on the context of the game, I mean, there's
True.
all kinds of different audio behind it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Like
so
being one of the bands in rock band, would that like pay well?
I would imagine that, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably, if it's not a residual-based income, meaning that you're getting royalties from what you're doing,
They pay out flat.
the payout, the buyout's probably going to be pretty decent. More than what you're going to make, you know, off of YouTube hits or whatever else.
Now I
for
know you
sure,
work
so.
with a company called Metalworks as well. You know, you're
yep.
doing a little bit of work with them, and
I do. So basically, I teach at a Metalworks.
Yeah.
I'm one of their instructors. I've been there for about 7 or 8 years now.
Oh, great.
So it's a part-time thing for me, but it's something that I do
isn't that
enjoy
the
doing.
gentleman from Triumph?
It is, yep.
Yeah.
Gil Moore's the drummer
Gilmore,
from
that's
Triumph.
right. That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, another resident of Mississauga.
Yes,
So,
very cool.
but yeah, I mean, it's it's been fun. It's cool to be able to kind of impart all the knowledge that I've learned over the years to new minds and new musicians.
Is it like young, old?
It's all over the map. I mean, it's post-secondary, so
Okay,
it's generally going to be kids coming out of high school or people that have maybe done a little bit of university and decided to do something different.
That's right.
I've had a lot of second career people that have come through as well, guys that have just or ladies
Any
that
old
have.
dudes like me?
I've seen old. I've seen guys that are definitely in their 40s that have just had a change of heart. They are musicians at heart, and they worked in the labor force and decided, you know what, I want to just
Try this.
Whether it's a midlife crisis or whatever it is,
Yeah.
they've just decided, you know what, I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to try something different.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely been guys like that have done it too.
I love it. I love it. Now I know you're a family man.
I am.
Tell us
yes.
about your family.
Well, I'm, a happily married dad. I've
Yeah.
got a 2-year-old son,
Yeah.
a wonderful
What's
wife.
his name?
His name's Anthony.
Anthony, right on.
My wife's name's Sophie. And yeah, it's been great. It changes your life, for the better, I think. It's definitely imposes its challenges, but
Of course.
the rewards are
Huge.
way, way above what the challenges
So what does
are.
Joel do for fun?
Wow.
You're a busy dude, so like,
I
do you have life balance?
I try to. I mean, it's difficult because things get busy, and I know that I've got to make more time for things. Ever since my son's been born, I've definitely made a conscious effort to try to balance out my family life and my personal time a little bit more.
Yep.
So I try to, when it's possible, I try to avoid working weekends and things like that.
Okay.
Obviously, if there's a tight deadline or if I'm working with certain artists, I know some bands are 9-to-5ers, they only have times on weekends. I mean, I'll make time for that, but I try to keep my weekends open.
Yeah.
And spend some time
I do the
with
same.
family.
Sunday's family day.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
touch family days for my kids. That's it. Period.
sure.
No,
You gotta
no
have that.
negotiations.
No, there's got to be some balance for sure.
So let's say you hit the jackpot tomorrow. Okay. Would you still be a music producer? Would
Oh,
you still
100%.
Would you still do this type of work if you
I'd
didn't
do
have
more.
to?
I'd do even more.
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely.
They always say, if somebody has a big heart and they cash in, on a big $1 million or $1 billion jackpot, they're just gonna have more heart to give.
Well, to be honest with you, it's not a job for me. I love what I do.
Play
It's,
work.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a part of me. It's
Yeah.
not something like, yes, of course I get a paycheck from it. I have bills to pay, but I just love doing it. I can't not think about music.
Who would be your dream person to work with?
Wow, there's so
If
many.
you could pick,
There's so many
two or
inspirations.
three names that come to mind, pop in your head right away.
Not necessarily because of them as an artist, but because of them as a producer, and I respect what they do. A person like Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails, I think is just a genius.
Total genius.
I would absolutely love to work with him, not even just to be able to
You're
say
an
I work
80s
with
guy.
him.
You're dating yourself.
Well, I am, but he's involved
He's
in so many
relevant every
things. He is.
decade,
He's still making games. He's doing, and it's just, like I said, it's not to be able to say that I've got his name on my resume. It's to be able to actually sit in a room with him and watch him do his thing and learn from it.
And learn from it, yeah. At that level of expertise.
Absolutely.
The years and years and years of experience. And
For sure.
the wisdom nuggets that come out of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just because he's such an outside of the box type of guy.
What about a female?
Female, Sylvia Massey.
Okay.
She's another producer based out of California.
Yeah.
She does more of the harder rock stuff, but again, just very innovative mind in terms of production and engineering, and I think she'd be amazing to work with.
Any inspirations in the personal development industry? Are you following any of the gurus?
Not as much. I mean, you've obviously introduced me to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely inspired me.
James Erdt of the DYNAMO Show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, I'm starting to. I'm a newbie.
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
But it's definitely
and I'm a newbie
interesting.
to music, so we're gonna have to like definitely
Share some stuff.
swap some stuff.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
You know? I absolutely love working with you because you've made it painless for me. You know, you really made the experience easy because it's overwhelming for somebody. You know, one that's coming from a world that's not music completely at an age of 45 years young, saying, "Hey, can I do this?"
Right.
You know, and actually having people believe in me. You know, that's huge. That's absolutely, and even more so than my musical skill or talents. It's not what it's about. This is about a movement. This is an anthem. This belief song that we're working on together is an anthem for those kids that are out there. You know, it's like, hey, kid, you know, have you thought of committing suicide? Have you been raped? Have you been jumped in by your gang? Are you trying to get out of your gang? You know, what is it that, you know, is holding you back?
Right.
You know, are you in the gutter with a heroin needle in your arm? You know, put up your hand and say, hey, this song is actually to reach those kids as an anthem to say, hey, there's a group of people, we're out here, we love you, we are the Reviver Guardians. All you gotta do is put up your hand and say, hey, I need some help. You know, maybe make it to the ranch, the Reviver Rejuvenation Ranch. So now Joel, he's actually put so many wonderful people together that we can't really talk about right now today, but when the time comes, I'm sure you're gonna hear all about it, and you're gonna be pretty wild because I'm blown away. I'm blown away at who this guy knows. So if you're gonna work with anybody that knows people, it's this guy right here, man.
No, it's been a great experience. And like I said, I mean, one of the things that, you know, that's attributed to music is music and emotion goes hand in hand. Or go hand in hand, sorry.
And I love that because you're putting so much emotion in the song. You got what did you call it? I mean, you were telling me the other day. Is it called minors and majors? You know,
Yeah, minor chords, major chords.
Yeah, but it's like it's up and down. So you feel like you're gonna cry, and then you feel like it's like on a chair, and then you feel like oh my god, I'm gonna cry, and then you're it's like on a chair.
For sure.
You know, it's back and forth and back and forth, and it just takes you on that roller coaster.
And that's it. And I mean, that's the thing that I find with a great song. What makes a great song is being able to toy with people's emotions, right?
Yeah.
I find that even myself, like, you know, if I listen to music, regardless of its era, there are certain songs that bring me back to a specific moment in my life.
Okay.
And it just recalls
What were you
memories.
listening to in your 20s?
Oh man, I've always been kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to obviously rock music, I've listened to metal, I listen to hip hop, I've listened to R&B, pop.
I guess as a musician, you just love music.
I do, and I mean, I grew up with my dad, who was a big fan of classical music and like, you know, 70s disco and whatever else. So I mean, for me,
So anyway,
it's
when
like
I
all
tell
over.
people I'm getting into this music song here, people are like, well, what style of music is it? I'm like, I don't know. Like what is it?
I would probably say that it's got an urban feel to it, for sure. It's more on the urban
pretty
side
broad,
of things.
dude.
Well, let's you know, urban. Trying to keep it on the closer side of hip hop because obviously I want it to relate a little bit more to the kids that we're dealing with.
They're really listening to a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't want to go too far onto the pop side because I don't want it to feel like it's been watered down.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find the fine balance between the two, where it's got the commercial vibe that the pop side has, but it still has the street, ear to the ground vibe that hip hop has.
Done.
So.
Boom. Joel Kazmi here on the Dynamo Show. I am James Erdt. We will see you on episode 36.